Alright guys, so we're going to be ranking every in-game event within Fortnite. I'm going to be trying to focus on the 4 main events that we have seen within this game so far. There have been other events that have either been associated with the main events or just very small parts of larger events that we're not going to be covering within this video. We're going to be covering the 4 main events here and ranking them in order. And I'm going to go through pretty much 2 categories. One, the actual event itself. Was it cool? Was it just a cool event to watch and experience? And then 2, the result of the event. What did the event actually do for the game? Did it actually change the game? Did it actually add something interesting? And so that's pretty much how I'm going to be judging these events here. Now, after this video is uploaded, I'm going to be checking the comments to see you guys vote for what your favorite event is. And I'm going to put a bunch of those comments on the winning event in my next video covering this topic. So definitely comment below what you guys think is the favorite event. What is your favorite event and why? I mean, you don't need to say why, but at least say what your favorite event is so I can count all of the comments and then put all of those comments up on screen within my other video that I'm going to do, pretty much seeing what you guys think, because this video, you may not actually agree with me, or you may think, you know, number 2 should be number 1 or vice versa. So I want to see what everyone in the community actually thinks about these in-game events. So anyway, let's get started. Let's start with the first one here. Now, this is actually a bit interesting because the first one here I'm going to be covering is the first part of the cube event. So this is pretty much, I'm going to be showing you guys gameplay up on screen of the cube going into Loot Lake. I think that's the main point of this whole event, but I guess you could include the cube first landing in the desert biome in Fortnite, and then it traveling around the map, and then it eventually making its way to Loot Lake, landing in Loot Lake, and I guess the end of that event. That's a pretty prolonged thing, but the main event, a part of that whole experience, was when the cube actually melted into Loot Lake. So that's going to be the first one here, pretty much number 4 on my list. So here's the gameplay, and here you go.
Oh. Yo!
So this event was back in September. I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty cool event. There was a cool flash. I don't think anyone was expecting the whole Loot Lake to turn into this bouncy cube sort of area. It was pretty cool. The only thing is, it's all the way at the end. It's not number 4 because I'm not saying it was anticlimactic, but nothing much really happened. Nothing much was changed on the map besides the Loot Lake being like this bouncy area. The whole map was pretty much the same, and the actual event itself, the cube melted into the lake, and then the only cool thing was like the flash, and then it pretty much turning purple. So the actual event was okay, and the result was pretty cool, but nothing much in the way of anything that we've seen before, like some of the later events I'm going to be talking about. So this is at number 4. It's okay, but here's a slightly better one, I think. The one we just saw, the Ice King event. Now, I feel like I personally saw a lot of hate, not really hate with the Ice King event, but a lot of people saying like, oh, it was anticlimactic and we were expecting so much more. And I do think it wasn't much of anything. I think the result, it did change the whole map. It did make the whole map snowy. So that is pretty cool. It's a decent result. We did see it on Christmas, but at least the map is going to be snowy for at least a couple weeks now. And I think the actual event itself was pretty interesting. It was out of nowhere. We saw this sphere up in the sky. Everyone was freaking out, and the Ice King was inside of it holding the cube, and the cube was growing. And then obviously the actual event, when the Ice King, pretty much like a shadow of the Ice King, just comes and blows this huge ice storm, and it just blows through the whole map, and the map actually, you know, turns snowy gradually as the ice storm was moving. So it was pretty cool for Fortnite to actually develop that to happen live within the game. So I think the actual event itself really wasn't that bad. The result, it's snowy. Also, we have those ice zombies and stuff. Obviously, it's the same thing as the Fortnite Mayor's thing, but it's still pretty cool. I think it wasn't as bad as people were saying. It's not the craziest thing we've seen, but it's definitely a solid Fortnite in-game event, and I'm glad they did it. Also, this is not the main event for Season 7. There is definitely going to be, and there's code for this, there's going to be one more huge event with the Dragon Eggs at the end of Season 7. I think this was an extra in-game event that decided to add in the middle of the season, and I think it's a pretty decent one at that. So, again, obviously, you guys can voice your opinions down below, and if you don't like it, just don't vote for it. But I thought it was pretty decent. That's why it's at number 3. So the next event here is the second cube event. Now, obviously, the main event we're going to be covering is when the cube finally, was floating over Loot Lake and it started spinning, and then obviously this weird butterfly thing happened, and then obviously Loot Lake turned into a different location. But obviously, before that, the cube was moving to different locations around the map as well as the first cube event, and that was obviously pretty cool. It was sort of like a prolonged event, and the hype was increasing, and we were trying to figure out where this cube is going to go. Why is it up in the air? Why is it a floating island moving around the map? Obviously, ended up in Loot Lake, where the main event occurred. So I'm going to show you guys the gameplay, and then we'll talk about it. So I think first off, the actual results from this event, probably one of the best out of any of the events we've seen. It's a whole new location, pretty much revamped Loot Lake. It made Loot Lake a lot more accessible, a lot more less annoying to actually move through. You don't have this huge lake that you have to trudge through every time you have to move across the map. There's a lot of different areas, a ton of chest locations. It's almost a decent spot to actually land now, and it actually looks pretty nice. So I'm glad they did that, and obviously it's been updated a couple times since then, but that event was really the one that triggered Loot Lake into turning what it is now an actual decent area to drop. But the event itself we have to judge as well, and the event itself, I think for me, the first part was pretty sick. When the cube was spinning and growing larger, and there was like electricity around it, and it was like something was going to happen, and then the screen flashed when it fully sort of got to its final stage. I think that was one of the coolest things we've actually seen from an in-game event within Fortnite. I think the butterfly scene was it was cool. It was a little trippy, but I think at that point it was a little drawn out. It was a bit anticlimactic in the fact that, okay, you see that like all these weird birds and butterflies, and then obviously it's like, okay, now you have this location. I think that was a little weird. I think something would have been sick if the cube exploded and then live in the game it transformed Loot Lake into what it is now. I think that would have been cooler rather than going to this other dimension. I think the other dimension, like I said, was trippy. It was interesting. It was like, oh, where the hell are we? Like, we're in Fortnite, but we're in this weird area. So the pluses for this event, it's number 2, so obviously I think highly of it. I think it's a really well done event. I think there's a lot of different aspects of it that are cool. They did a lot with this event to make it an actual fully fledged interesting event to watch, but not number 1. So number 1 for me, I feel like, has to be the rocket event. This was the first event within Fortnite. It was back, I'm pretty sure, in the beginning of July. This was an event that no one was really expecting. I think this could be a bit of nostalgia just because it was the first in-game event we've ever seen within Fortnite. The first time we were like, wait, something's gonna happen. We didn't know if it was gonna be live within the game. Everyone was hopping on the servers. Everyone was trying to, take a peek at this rocket launch location. No one knew what was gonna happen. People thought the map was gonna be blown up. People thought Tilted Towers was gonna be destroyed. Like, I feel like there's so much hype behind this event. That's really what made it insanely cool. But let me show you guys the gameplay here, and then we'll talk about why this event really was so cool. So the rocket launches up into the sky, comes down, and then you start seeing all like sparks of electricity and rifts being opened at all different locations. And we thought at some point that this rocket bullet here was going to hit Tilted Towers. It was aiming directly for Tilted Towers, and I think right when that happened, it was like everyone was like, oh my god, this thing is heading for Tilted Towers. And obviously there was that barrier around Tilted Towers. I think that was purposely just for a troll, because Epic Games knew everyone was expecting Tilted Towers to be destroyed, and they purposely put that barrier there just to troll everyone and say like, nope, not gonna happen. And then it came back, and obviously that was the beginning of the rifts within Fortnite. So I think maybe you could say the result wasn't that good because it didn't really change the map all so much. The biggest result for any event was that other the second cube event that we talked about, but I think this event itself, just watching it almost hit Tilted Towers, watching everything go in the sky, the rocket launching, the hype behind it, all of that came together for a really sick event. So I don't know, again, that's my number one. That's ranking all of the in-game Fortnite events. Let me know what you guys think. I want to see your guys' opinions, and then I will tally them up and see which one you guys think is the best in-game event. So that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you guys did enjoy it, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.